Sip on this, Cosmetology Careers. And it tastes so much sweeter in my new mug, which you can get on my website, Coachingwithmsd.com. Today, we will chat about a topic near and dear to my heart, cosmetology careers. Because before I was coaching with Miss D, I was Ask the Pro Stylist. Actually, for the past 15 years, I've been Ask the Pro Stylist. But right now, I'm coaching with Miss D. And if this is your first time joining me, then welcome. I'm your host, Deirdre Haggerty. I'm a certified career coach and founder of Coaching with Miss D, which pays homage to my former students, my hairstyling students, which also offers life coaching and career coaching services to align your career with your values and your vision for life. I'm also a licensed hairstylist in New York and New Jersey, which is why we're chatting about a beauty career path. I am so excited you are joining me today to have a conversation with coffee in hand. Today I have water. As we chat about life, careers, relationships, and all the little things that shape who we are and maybe make us a little crazy. I will not lecture you or tell you what to do. It's just the two of us, babe, in this cute little coffee shop behind me, chatting about topics that make us laugh or drive us nuts. Now, especially if you're a hairstylist, you get this, okay? You're in church or wherever you worship, or maybe you're in some large facility where there's lots of rows, and in front of you there are people that you can see their hair. So this is me every Sunday in church, and it never fails. My eyes go right to that one person, that one woman, usually, who looks like she just rolled out of bed and didn't comb her hair. You, if you're a hairstylist and you're watching this, you get this. And it looks like she was hit in the back of the head with a pancake. That is the life of a hairstylist. You know, the pancake, she's got that dent, you know what I'm talking about? Yes, we are always looking. And yes, we are judging. And if somebody tells you they're not, they are. They're judging about how they can make it better. And I guarantee you somebody's looking at my hair right now and say, I can make that better. My girlfriends hate it when I stare at their regrowth. Former educator, I say regrowth, not roots. Roots are for trees. You can fight me on this. I don't care. Any hairstylist can say whatever they want. This is the educator in me saying regrowth. It's also because when I was teaching color. So that's what I love. So let's sip on this for a little bit, okay? According to a 2020, that's 5 years ago, so I hope in this economic climate this has changed. But according to a 2020 Bureau of Labor stat, the median average of salary of a stylist is, we'll say starting stylist, about $33,000, which can range to about $80,000. And beyond. This also depends highly on where you live, okay? And where you work, and the professional standards, and the specialty you may do, and the type of beauty job you take. So if you're doing extensions, you're going to make a lot more money. If you're focusing on corrective color, you're going to make a lot more money. And your time that you've had behind the chair is also going to make you a little bit more money. So this is what I've done forever. It feels like most of my life since high school. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey because it's important to this conversation. I grew up in New York on Long Island, where we had vocational high school. It wasn't a vocational high school, but we had vocations in high schools. It wasn't considered a vocational high school. And we had cosmetology in my high school. I was fortunate it was in my high school. So I took cosmetology in high school. If maybe you saw my first episode of Sip on This, I go more into detail. I'm not going to go into a tremendous amount of detail with this. Took cosmetology really to kind of learn how to manage my own curly hair. And honestly, I had horrible self-esteem. I may have a lot of confidence, but confidence and self-esteem are vastly different. And I did not like the way I looked. And I wanted to address that. And so cosmetology actually really did help me with that. And then I went to college, and I wasn't going to take the cosmetology test. And then my girlfriend, I took the written exam, and academics was always very easy for me. The practical side of cosmetology honestly wasn't. And even though, since I was a very small child, my mother being the only girl, I have 4 brothers, was constantly doing something to me. My hair, my nails, my hair in rollers, always fixing me up, which I wanted nothing to do with. I just wanted to dress like a boy and have a very short haircut, which drove my mother nuts until I got a little older. And then I was, basically hit puberty, and I was like, ew, I don't like the way I look. And I did all kinds of crazy things. And in the 80s, I had a really tight perm. And oh my God, I don't even know why I did that, because I actually have curly hair. It was awful. So I didn't want to take the test. My girlfriend came over. The practical test, the written test I was fine with. Passed it, flying colors. The practical test, didn't want to take it. Was actually not going to take this. Back in the day, we had to work on human beings, not mannequin heads. And so my mom took off of work, and she's got hair like me, thick, wavy hair, and I had to put her hair in rollers. And my girlfriend was like, no, you are doing this. And so my girlfriend came over. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, my mother's yelling at me, oh my God, what are you doing? You have to do this. We both set my mother's hair in the rollers, take her to my high school, where the cosmetology school was, to dry her very thick hair. I don't even know how. By some miracle, I passed. I combed her out. Her hair was still damp. And I passed. But I did go to college. And while I was in college, I was working as a hairstylist. Then I had children, working as a hairstylist. Then when I first got married, I had the person who did my hair and makeup for my wedding. I didn't want her to do my hair. I just wanted her to do my makeup, because I wasn't so great at doing makeup then. And she's like, no, I'll do your hair. And I was like, no, I don't want you to. Anyway, she was a beauty bridesmaid. And this was crazy what she did for me. She came to my house. She did my hair. She did my makeup. And she did my hair. She did a great job. Although, to be honest, the back fell out a little bit because I was dancing a little wild at my wedding. But I was only 21. The back fell out and yada, yada. But she stayed with me till the first dance, bustled me up. She touched me up for all my pictures. I mean, how wonderful. A year later, we kept in contact, and she was giving me business. So when I tell you in the early 90s how much money I was making doing this, it was insane. I mean, and it was wonderful. Then my husband and I bought a house. We put a salon in my basement. Then my husband and I opened a business unrelated to beauty. It had more to do with his career. It was an entertainment company. It was a children's party facility, which branched into a mobile entertainment company. But what did I do? I added hair and makeup parties for little girls. Again, just always focusing on beauty. And I just listened to a podcast with Mel Robbins, who I idolize, and they were talking about, what was your passion? And I have to say, at this time, beauty probably was my passion. It was something I knew a lot about. It was something I worked hard at. I had tried other jobs, and during this podcast, sometimes you just know what's not for you. And I knew office work wasn't for me, although I did go to college to be a therapist. And I guess if you're taking the joy and satisfaction I took out of doing hair, which I'll get to more when I become an educator, to what I'm doing now, what I truly loved and what I've realized is I love helping people. And that was what I was really passionate about, helping people. So, back and forth while we have the business, I kept going back and forth in and out of a salon. And then it's time for me to seriously buckle down. And my kids were all now in school full time. My youngest was now in kindergarten. And I became a cosmetology educator as a fluke. It wasn't something I went out for. It was something I applied for an admissions agent, actually. And they said, you would be a great educator. Why? Because they saw my blog, Ask the Pro Stylist. And they saw my online writing that I was doing beauty writing for other online outlets. Then I dabbled in hair replacement. Sorry, I did not like that at all. It was not my thing. And not for the reason of replacing hair, for the secluded rooms we had where there were men who thought that they could say or do anything they wanted once those doors closed. That was not for me. Went back into educating, went to become a school director, became a salon manager, then I became an executive director. And at this time of cosmetology schools, I was still in the cosmetology industry, in the beauty industry. But at this time, I really started to get discouraged. There were things happening. I don't know if I was discouraged with the industry. There was something happening with me internally that I just felt like this just wasn't for me anymore. I moved out of state, moved to New Jersey, and within a very short time, I was a beauty supply manager for a beauty supply store, professional beauty supply. I was a spa manager. Right while I was the executive director, I got my master's degree in English. I started writing. I wrote this book, which I'm going to talk about. I also just finished a novel I'm working on, which is in its editing phase. I got certified as a career coach, and this whole time while this is happening, I then was still also tutoring. I'm a beauty mentor and a beauty consultant. But then I was also I worked in a doctor's office for a little bit of time as well, and very briefly worked at another cosmetology school here, and I was a substitute teacher. While I was getting certified and writing my book and doing all of these other things, and I was just disgusted with the beauty industry. I kept leaving it because I just didn't like it anymore. It just wasn't for me. But, I had this epiphany that I really, really, truly do love helping other people. And it brings me a tremendous amount of joy, what I'm doing. I had, as I was going through this journey, and just recently, I had a dream. And I'm going to talk about my dream because it's about, I felt, how while I was going through this and just changing my thought process and, building a business, because I'm starting from scratch in my mid 50s, now late 50s, but starting from scratch in my early 50s to mid 50s. And, of course, there's like, what am I doing? And so I had this dream, and I was very upset in the dream, and I just prayed, like screamed out, like something bad was happening. And I screamed out, Jesus, please help me. And I was filled with light. And I woke up, and normally a dream that brought me that much anxiety and angst in the dream would have woken me up, and I would have been scared. But I wasn't. Because I felt in that dream that there's hope, and there's always hope through Jesus, or whatever your light is, God, however you pray, whatever religion you are, the universe, there's always hope. So if you're deciding you want to be, I'm going back now, because there's always hope no matter what it is you want to do. Sorry, I got a little teary. I'm not a Bible pounder kind of person, thumping person. I'm not, but I do believe that Jesus is here for you, and Jesus is here for me, or whoever you believe in. I'm not going to push my Lord on other people. But if you want to try cosmetology, if you think this is for you, I'm not speaking to the hairstylists who are working. They know where they are and where they're at, and if you need a mentor or salon consultant, I'm here for you. I still do tutoring. My main focus right now is career coaching. I have a lot of clients, but I always make room for the beauty professionals because that's who I was. I still am. I will never get rid of my license. My cosmetology high school teacher told me, don't ever, ever get rid of your cosmetology license. And I never, ever will. I will constantly renew it. I only do family at this point, but I will never lose that. So I wrote this book, The Future Professional's Guide to Cosmetology. Is Beauty School for You? It's not a book. It's literally like 60 pages. It's a guide. It's available on Amazon. If you go to my website, there's a link, clicks right to it. There was a change in Amazon. They don't, anything under $9.99, you're not making any money on. So now, unfortunately, I had to upcharge the paperback version to a ridiculous amount of money if I want to make a few cents on it, to $10.99. So that's what this is. I don't recommend you get it, but there's a digital version. And if you are part of the Amazon reading program, it's free, the Kindle program. I think it's Kindle. The digital version of this is $2.99. I actually prefer the digital version because the digital version in the back, I'm going to jump to the back for a second before I go through the actual book. It is a resource section. And in the digital version of the resource section, every state in this union of ours is listed with links to licensing, applications, schools, teaching. Now, this was written 2 years ago. Those links possibly have changed, but maybe one or two of them in that paragraph underneath that state will still be there. So that's why I prefer the digital version, especially if you have Prime. It'll be free for you, but if you don't, even the digital version you can put on your phone, and it's definitely worth it. When I talked about the salaries earlier, again, those salaries are going to change depending, and I'm going to go through the various careers that you can choose if you decided for a career in cosmetology and beauty, and again, it varies where you live. There's a cap that they're trying to put on tuitions for private schools because they're trying to meet it at a certain where you are at your starting salary to see if you can pay off your student loans. That's the gist of it, right? And so they're trying to put a cap, or they were trying to put a cap on the amount of money private schools can charge you because people are getting killed with student loans that between the interest and etc. Now, of course, if you can afford to pay out of pocket, that's great. But I do discuss some of that in the book, and I can kind of just go right to that chapter right now about the cosmetology schools. That chapter is and you think I would know that off the top of my head. That's on chapter 2, private schools versus BOCES or vocational career technical high schools. If you live in a state that offers free vocational schools, career and technical schools in the high school years, I highly suggest to take advantage of that. There is adult education where there may be a smaller fee, and then there's the private schools. Now, where I was the director of private schools. Some middle of the road. I worked at bottom of the road tuition. I was the director for, say, middle of the road and upper end. And I was the director for a school that just nickel and dimed you for everything. When I say nickel and dime, they charged you for the lock. I mean, there's really a lot of things, and this is what I go through in the book. Like, what is it you're looking for? You need to know this. You're getting charged for the kit. Now, that's also part of your tuition. You really want to make sure when you sit down at that admissions table that you have a list of questions. And if you have this book, I go through some of the things you want to ask. I'm not disparaging these schools at all. I'm saying you really have to go in as an informed shopper, is what I'm saying. Because if you missed your opportunity in high school, there may be opportunities for adult education where it's a much cheaper price if you're doing it through your school districts. And I'm going to tell you a little something about that education you're going to get. They all have to be a licensed hairstylist, okay? Because I substituted here in New Jersey. You still have to be licensed, a licensed cosmetologist to work in the school. So you're getting the same education. Some schools, every state has different licensing requirements. And by licensing requirements, I mean the amount of hours that you have to be there, that you have to have educated hours. It's funny that education hours for New York are 1,000 hours, and New York, in my opinion, has the best hairstylists. As does California, but that's where the money is, right? That's where a lot of the money is, and Florida as well. But again, those states, I believe, have more hours, and that's also discussed in resources, the amount of hours you need for each state. So it's a good idea to go through, especially if maybe, you're in high school, 10th grade, and you're thinking about it. Parents, take a look at the book. It costs barely anything to get the book. So that's, for me, unbelievably important. And I'm not disparaging the schools. I'm just saying know before you go, okay? And as far as the education, you're getting a basic education wherever you go. You're getting what you need to pass the state board exam, period. Some schools, even the high schools, will offer other things, like they'll have other people, guest artists come in. Maybe they'll take you to the career shows that go on, like IBS in New York City, which is also in Miami and Las Vegas. Maybe you'll go to that's the International Beauty Show. Maybe you'll get a chance to go to those. You'll go on field trips. You'll go visit other salons. They can invite people in as lecturers. That happens in the high schools too. The more advanced schools, you're going to learn different techniques. Now, that is definitely true. I've worked for two, and I don't want to say their names. I started teaching in one where they had a variety of different techniques they taught. I thought it was great. I worked for another one, a famous hairstylist. Again, I'm not going to say the name. Actually, they were both famous hairstylists who had schools. And, you did learn advanced skills. But I'm telling you, the focus then becomes you passing the state board exam, because you have to pass the state board exam in order for these schools to be successful. They have to have a high graduation rate, and they have to have a high passing of the cosmetology state board rate. So those are some things to be aware of. Education never stops, though. Once you leave school, education's never, ever going to stop. Not even for me. If I wanted to continue going and continue learning, I love not just watching videos online, but actually being in person and seeing new techniques from people. If I was still doing hair, I would 100% still be doing that. So chapter 1 is what you're going to learn in cosmetology school. That is what I just went over, basically. And you're going to, no, there's more. Because if you think you're going to go into cosmetology school and sit here all day on your phone, you are so wrong. You are going to learn things you didn't think you'd have to know. You're going to learn fractions, division. You have to know how to measure. You're going to learn, you should know the color wheel. That's from kindergarten. You're going to learn the parts of the body, the names, anatomy, your systems within your body. There is so much you're going to learn in your textbooks that you're going to think, oh, wait, I thought I didn't have to know this. Well, you do, and you do need to know it to pass the state board exams. Just the different parts of the skull, all of these things are unbelievably important. Angles of haircuts, degrees of haircuts. These are things you're going to learn. And you'll learn them in both schools. I promise you, you will learn this in both schools. But, private schools will definitely go into more depth. There's school policies. I know I just picked up my phone. Now a lot of high schools or all across the country are starting to ban cell phones in school. I personally think that's a great idea. But I also have thoughts about that, what if there's an emergency? But, have a place where you can put it away from you, that you can get to it in case of an emergency. Regardless, there are school policies. And if you're in a private school, and even if you're in a public school, attendance is priority. You have to clock those hours. You have to prove to the state that you were there in order to take your cosmetology exam, period. Even me getting certified as a career coach, I had to prove my coaching hours. So the hours of practical work is important wherever you are. You also have to have a dress code, because I'm sorry, nobody wants their hair done by a schlub. They don't. You don't want to smell. I don't want to smell. I don't want somebody standing behind me smelling like their tuna fish sandwich. I don't want to smell that. Sorry. I don't want to smell it. Nor I don't want to smell that garlic aioli you just had on that hamburger. So you also want to have your hair looking nice. You want to have your makeup done. You don't have to overpower. But you don't want to have your nails looking shangad. You want to look the part. There's professionalism that's taught in cosmetology school. And these are part of the policies. That's part of the dress code. And then there's a code of conduct. And yes, a code of conduct is important. And then I just passed it, some things you want to ask, about attendance when you're sitting in the admissions office. What's the start and end time of the class? What are your hours per day? What's your contracted schedule? How many days per week? What holidays, time off do you get? And no, you don't get, if there's a holiday, you don't get hours for that holiday being off. What's the mandatory attendance requirement? And makeup work or time, if it's offered. If you miss, do they offer makeup work, time, etc.? And then chapter 4, careers in beauty. So what careers can you do? Well, obviously you can be a hairstylist. You can be a hair cutter. You can be a hair colorist, as I was. I did everything, but my focus was color. And when I taught color. I was a color specialist. You could do natural hair, braiding, extensions, a wig specialist, hair replacement expert. That's a lot of money. You just have to, set your boundaries. Depends on where you work, though. I just didn't happen to work in a place that had really good boundary setting. Be a texture specialist. You'll start as an apprentice or an assistant, depending on the state that you're in. Some of them only require you to be licensed. You should get your temporary license as soon as you leave school until you take your test and have your full license. Could be a salon manager like I was. Could be a makeup artist like I was doing this beauty bridesmaid that I was, or this beauty bridesmaid. You could be a barber, an esthetician, a nail tech, a lash specialist. Oh my God, lash specialist. That's a tongue twister. I was getting my lashes done until my lashes fell out. Now I grew them all back, but it took like a year and a half for my lashes to grow back. You could be a microblader. You could be a laser hair removal technician, a salon owner, which I feel like everybody who goes to cosmetology school, especially the private ones, come in with their own skill set and they're like, no, this is what I want to do. Cool, that's what you want to do, but you still have to learn the basics. But everybody wants to be their own entrepreneur. I get it. So do I. You could be a spa owner. You can go into product development. You could be a brand developer, a platform artist, a brand educator, a retail distributor, a beauty clerk. beauty writer, blogger, vlogger, influencer. Oh my God, especially right now. Cosmetology educator, instructor, teacher, an academic manager, an admissions agent, a school director, a special effects makeup artist. That's really cool. Now, no, you don't need your license, but a lot of my students, when I was working in Manhattan, a few of them had already worked on Broadway, and they were getting sent to get their license so that they could actually cut hair. They didn't need it to work on some of the things they were doing, but they just wanted that additional paper to help them expand. You can be a fashion show stylist, a makeup artist. That's amazing. I've been backstage at New York Fashion Week when I was writing and watching them work, watching the nail techs work and the makeup artists and the hairstylists. Of course, that's what I was fascinated in, right? Film, television, stage, stylist, makeup artist, photo shoot, print work, makeup artist, and stylist. One of my students became a photographer, but started doing that. A celebrity stylist, as long as you can just woo those famous people, you're in. An image consultant. You can be a mortician. Yes, a mortician. It's another license as well, but if you have this license, you could do double duty and, you don't have to talk to anybody. And then you can be a professional bridesmaid. My father always tried to get me into doing work in the funeral homes. Maybe I would have stuck with it because they don't talk back. And if they do, damn, I'm running out that door. So this is our chat for today. I need to sip on this for a second. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your coffee or your water or your wine or your tea or whatever you're drinking. And if you're on the job and you're drinking something else in this cup and you're on the job, don't do that. If something I said resonated with you, I would love for you to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss future conversations. Today will be the only day I focus on beauty, but I wanted to give it something from my heart because it will always be a part of me and always be in my heart. And if you're feeling that itch for a career pivot, like I did in my 50s, and that's cool, you can do it. You can do it. Or would like a beauty mentor or a salon consultant, or are thinking about beauty school and want to purchase my guide, visit my website. That has all the links you need, and check out my coaching services while you're there. And until next time, keep sipping, keep growing, and remember to live as your authentic self. Your version and no one else's. And I'm going to cry. As Ask the Pro Stylist used to say, happy